guys, welcome to a new episode of In Other Words with Danielle and Zara.
So this is a podcast where we talk about a wide variety of different subjects, from looking back on high school and Christian living. So in other words, we talk about all the things.
So before we start recording, I just want to preface by saying that there is a fly just flying around here as flies do.
We've tried to get rid of it,
But it's very difficult. It moves very fast.
It is our number one fan.
So this is what we're dealing with today.
Yes. So if anything bizarre happens,
Yes, it's the fly.
it's
not
the
us.
fly. It's not us.
Anyway, so before we start, the topic that we're doing today is
Fears of our generation.
quarter life crisis vibes.
Yes.
All the things.
Why
really.
living is terrifying.
Yes, being a human sucks.
Yes.
But how are you, Zara?
I'm well.
You good?
Yes.
That's good.
I'm doing a lot better than when we last recorded,
Yes,
let me tell you.
That is excellent. And I am also well.
You didn't let me ask you.
Oh.
Danielle, how are you?
I am well, thank you.
I'm so glad.
And another thing that I want to talk about,
She didn't tell me, by the way. This
No.
is a shocker to me as well.
the fact that Pete Davidson and
Oh
Kim
my
Kardashian, that they are dating. Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian. In what world? In what world?
While you introduced the topic, I'm sorry for, there's probably a lot of, we have like middle-aged ladies that listen to this who probably don't know who those people are.
But just
So you
Google
can
it.
Google it.
Do you know what? I saw a
I'm
picture.
going to find his relationship history.
Oh my word. He's dated everyone. And I've told you why.
You can Google that.
You can Google that for yourself. It's a specific quote that Ariana Grande has said about him.
Yeah.
But I won't go into any more detail than that. But I saw someone compared Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian to Gloria and Malman from Madagascar. the
giraffe. Oh yes, it's but she's cute.
She is cute. Just like the same vibes. It was very funny to me.
Okay, so he's dated Ariana Grande, Kate Beckinsale, Margaret
Thatcher?
Colley, I don't know, Kaya Gerber, Phoebe Dynevor, and now Kim Kardashian.
I feel like he dated even more before that.
Um,
Or he's like just been with people. And I'm
Cassie
like,
David,
who's that?
Carty Aquilno, okay, I said that already. Okay.
So
That
just
looks
basically a lot of people.
No, but guys, I'm sure that there have been other speculations.
Oh
Because
yeah, there've been lots of speculations.
I'm pretty sure in as long as I've had Instagram, and Danielle and I have DM'd each other things, like a good
There's
percentage
always-
of our DMs is me sending
Yeah, someone new that he's dating or has been seen
with the
and I'm like,
caption, another one.
yeah. So like I think apparently they're officially dating. Obviously we never really know anything about celebrities,
Yeah.
but that's just very funny to me. And
So,
also
what a light way to start the most depressing episode.
Yes, and also we are in love with Taylor Swift, really.
We are,
So-
guys. I've been converted.
Yeah, she has been converted. I've been on the T Swift train this year.
You
And a bit
have.
of last year when her Folklore and Evermore
have.
albums came out. But anyway,
Anyways.
let's get started with the actual topic.
Yes. So we did ask on our Instagram stories,
That's in other words _podcast.
which you should go and follow this minute. And basically we wanted to know, what do you think the biggest fears of this generation is? When we say this generation, do we mean mostly ours
feel
and
like it's
maybe
most-
Gen Z? Like
yeah.
millennial Gen Z.
Yeah. The younger
The youngins.
folks.
So anyone not in those categories, sorry, you are old or young.
Disqualified.
And yeah, we basically just wanted to chat about kind of like why living in this time and looking to the future is
Scary.
yes. So we will go in a long list, and I have some stuff, and we've added the stuff that people have said on
Yeah.
the gram. So yeah, we can just get into a chat about why it's terrifying and maybe offer each other some advice on how not to be terrified.
Sounds like a good
I
idea
have
to
none
me.
advice, but I'll try.
Yeah. Did you say you have none
I have
advice?
none advice.
That's okay. But the first one that I want to speak about, which is lighthearted, but it really made me laugh. The fear of
Yes.
our generation is making doctor's appointments over the phone. And that is very relatable.
For you especially.
I don't like phones. Although I had to make a lot of appointments recently because my body's like not working properly apparently. Not in a bad way, but like I'm not dying, don't worry. Well, I mean everyone's dying, but here we are. But I feel like social media as a whole has just made me like, and the fact that so many places nowadays you can just make an appointment online.
The fact that like I had to actually go in and renew my car registration.
That is terrifying.
It wasn't even terrifying. I'm like, why am I not doing this online?
Yeah. Terrifying. It's very scary to me.
First world problems.
Anyway.
Okay, so my first real one is loneliness and the fear of future loneliness.
Fun.
So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we live in a society where we've never been more connected, but we've never been more isolated and apart in our lives. And I think it's like very, very easy to be lonely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny because in our previous episode, we spoke about how it's an increasing feminist society and lots of like women seem like they don't want a man anymore sort of thing. And we both said like it may appear that way, but I don't actually think that's the case. And interestingly enough, I feel like there is this weird fear of ending up alone.
There is.
Like not meeting someone. Because it's like we have kind of given up on buying into the fact that there is this one. This magical one, the soulmate. And I mean, maybe this sounds bad and this is not researched, but I think this generation maybe is less likely to settle. You know,
that makes sense. I think it's
like
a
we're not
good
getting
hypothesis.
married. We're not getting married at 18.
Yeah,
we have time to figure things out.
There's like no need for a lot of people to get married because you can. Like I know back in the day, people used to be fussy about like if you're a couple living together, or whatever. Like they didn't want you to like rent a place from them or whatever.
Yeah. So
if
it's
you
a lot
weren't
easier
married.
to.
So now you can like just stay together and not get married.
Yeah.
And even so, like a lot of people don't see the benefit in getting married. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah. So I just think there's maybe a fear. Like I often think, shoot, I'm so picky.
But that's a good thing.
What if no one comes along? But at the same time, I'm not willing to settle.
Yeah.
So
that's a good thing, I think.
I think loneliness in the sense of meeting someone, but also just general loneliness is terrifying.
But yeah, I think what you were saying just about, you know, how we're so connected but at the same time, like a lot of us are so alone. It's because we've kind of formed parasocial relationships with people online. So like, for example, you can follow thousands of people on Instagram or whatever. You can watch people's like vlogs on YouTube, and your brain is in a sense like forming this relationship with this person that you don't even know. And like in your head,
TV series, I'm emotionally attached, guys.
Absolutely.
When Sybil and Matthew
just don't. Well, if you haven't seen it, then shame. But yes, when they carried on living the happiest lives.
Anyways, let's just say emotionally that was really difficult for me, and they are TV characters.
Yes. Anyway, so your brain is in a sense getting like this social interaction because you are on social media, but you're actually not getting what you need to not be alone and for all that fun stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's an issue.
I agree.
I think one of like another fear, I don't know if everyone has this, but I've seen it arising on social media, is just how to be more ethical in like such an unethical world.
Yeah.
So like we constantly presented like with so many challenges really, because like you don't want to like support slavery and you don't want to support horrible working conditions, but at the same time like it's so difficult to find like just let's say in the clothing industry, it's so difficult to find clothes that are sustainably made and ethical that aren't like super expensive. And then it's really difficult for me, it's really difficult to find my size in a lot of thrifted clothing. So I end up like having this thing, and like obviously you can just not buy things and you learn to make your own clothes, I guess, but that's also difficult. Zara's dying with this fly.
I know exactly what you mean, and like I even think like we're both holding smartphones right now, and like there's so much behind.
No, it's dodgy.
Like the manufacturing.
Yeah, and like the mining for cobalt.
It's like, it's quite scary, but it's like, yeah, we're sitting with iPhones and it's like we constantly are in the struggle of like, I'm being a terrible person. I want to live a more moral and sustainable life. And it's like, ugh.
It's so difficult to do that when you often have no option other than to support certain brands. And like my whole thing is just always, you know, just do what you can. You don't need to be perfect, but it's just really difficult to live like that, you know. But yeah, I really do believe the little things count. But at the same time, it's like nothing much can change if like the big guys aren't doing the changing.
We've always said that, and
which is so frustrating.
And it's very stressful. Like if we had to analyze and find the source of everything that we ever buy, like where it's sourced from, how, like what happens behind the scenes, like that would be the most stressful thing.
It is.
So that's a very good point.
And on the same kind of line, just also going back to the internet and social media, like we have access to that information. So you can, like, you're always just bombarded with this company did this and this brand did this and this is why you shouldn't eat almonds or whatever. And it's like it's too much. And like you want to be a good person, but like how
it's becoming increasingly more difficult to do. It's so difficult.
So that's my crisis.
Then my next one is failure / not achieving your purpose. And I actually had a conversation with a girl in the week, and she said to me, like, what if in the amount of years I have left on this earth, like I don't achieve
a scary thought,
what I'm supposed to. And I think that's a real fear for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
They feel this need, like you want your life to count for something. But at the end of the day, there isn't going to be a book written about every single one of us.
And that's okay. I wouldn't want to read all of it. Yeah.
That is okay. But I think it's really terrifying to think that, like, did I make the right decision? Or what if, because I messed that up, now...
Like your whole life will be ruined.
Yes. It's like, it's quite terrifying.
It really is.
To think about it. And we're also in the society where we've moved out of this idea of a man needs to provide for his family and a woman needs to just raise the kids. And like I think for a lot of women, this I can't relate to, at least at this stage, is this idea of like my goal in life being to be a mom. And I think a lot of people are kind of also starting to feel that way. And it's like, okay,
what is my purpose then?
What is my purpose? Because I feel like for centuries, a lot of people, their purpose was
there wasn't anything else to do. We have too much else to do now.
This is the problem.
And there's like for a lot of people, even if they want their whole lives to be centered around like, I don't know, homemaking and like raising children,
it's not financially
for so many people
viable.
It's so difficult. Everything is expensive, which is another point.
Every decision just feels like a big decision. This could
change my whole life. But when I was like thinking about possible thesis topics for next year, if I do my master's, I was literally like, this could change, like this could like influence the kind of job I go into.
That's the thing.
Like, that's kind of stressful. And like I was thinking way too much about it because you're not like married to your thesis. Kind of that's how they word it. That's how they word it. Like, so like I can still go into whatever line of work I want to because it's the skills that matter most. But I was actually like, oh my word, if I want to like go into environmentalism, then I need to write something about the environment. And it was just too much. And it just feels like every single choice you make like leads you into like where you're supposed to be, and obviously it does. But I also feel like I've also moved past the points where I think that there's like a right path and a wrong path for my life. Like if I choose this decision, maybe it wasn't the best decision that I could have made. I can always like do something to rectify it. Like I don't believe we're ever helpless in our decisions.
No, and I like, especially as a believer, like I actually have a lot of peace about, you know, like, do I want to die tomorrow? No. And there's a lot I want to do with my life, but I also like, it's interesting, like the Bible verse, and people use it often, it can become a cliche, but it says God makes all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And I really believe that is the case. And I think a lot of us like really want to leave an impact on this world, but sometimes just impacting one person is the biggest thing that you can do. And I also believe, especially as a Christian, and if there are Christians listening, is I think there's an incredible pressure when you really want to be obedient and walk in the will of God, and you're faced with a difficult decision and you don't know what to do. But I am very much of the opinion that sometimes, God has definitely given us free will, and like your dreams and your talents and your hopes, those aren't there by accident. You know, so if you want to do something but like you didn't read a Bible verse that says you must, like that's okay. Remember, God is speaking to you, God is leading you. You're not like a dumb person.
Yeah, you're not
like,
dumb.
Like
you can do it.
Yes.
You can make decisions and trust that, like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes as Christians, and like it does make sense sometimes, but like you kind of like do away with the whole like follow your gut or like follow the heart thing too much. And like I feel sometimes, like if you are a Christian, if you're not a Christian, then this is probably like unrelatable to you, but like if you are a Christian, I really do feel like what feels right to you, if you're following the Lord's word, if you're like immersing yourself in that, you're not just gonna like, your brain's not gonna come up with something that's like completely contrary to
exactly. If you're spending time with the Lord, like
you're not gonna just like make some random terrible decision. I mean, maybe you will. Everyone makes mistakes. It's fine, and you can rectify it. Like I said, like you're not helpless. But yeah, like I do believe that like sometimes our intuition, our gut feel, and following our heart, essentially, it really all means the same thing. But it can be a good thing.
I know what you're saying. It can just, there's a lot of pressure to make decisions, and I think
you know what's right sometimes.
You do.
It's okay.
You're not completely dumb.
Yes.
Only a little bit.
Only a little bit. I think another thing, it probably ties into my last point, but it's also just there's pressure to like almost change the world and make it a better place. But at the same time, like I think a fear is that we can't ever change the world. Like it's like we've gone too far and we can't ever change it. So like you think about the climate crisis, which we can also talk about later. The climate crisis, about just the global system in general, where, you know, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and it doesn't ever seem to get better. And like people have their ideas of what system will work, you know, like socialism or capitalism or whatever. But like we know whatever is happening now is not great for most people. Like you might be sitting in your home and you think like, oh no, actually, like I have a pretty good life. Like, okay, you are like what, top 1%, top 10% of the world. I don't care. But I don't actually know what the percentages are, but it's very small of the people who live a good life, or whatever we classify as good. You can live a good life and be poor, but if you all know what I mean. It just seems like so many things are just stuck the way that they are, and like people are stuck in like a certain system because it benefits them.
And I think the reason why we wanted to do this episode is Danielle and I have both had these moments where it's like we actually kind of get very down, and like you just reach this point of despair where it's like
it's like, wow, everything sucks.
Everything sucks. And it's like, there's, especially as a believer, like I know that like my future is in God's hand and that there is always hope, but that doesn't stop me from feeling the emotion and feeling so helpless. Like the helplessness is the worst feeling,
exactly,
and also the guilt of continuing to live my life knowing that other people are struggling and suffering as much as they are. But I think like, and please DM me if you got the answers to this, but it's so important that we find like a balance between like seeing the suffering and seeing people struggling and not turning a blind eye, but also not feeling guilty for the life that you have, you know, and not feeling the pressure, because like you said, one person is not going to change the world, not going to change systems, you know. So I think those are two things you really have to hold in like
and like guilt really doesn't do anything unless you actively like make choices in your life to do stuff, if you know what I mean. Like you can't just sit in your home and be like, oh, I feel so bad that people are poor, and then like not do anything about it. But like also don't expect to change everything. Like you said, like even if you make a difference in one person's life, like that's cool. And I think it'll take a really, really big community to change the world. And it must also come from the top people, unfortunately.
The top people.
Are you listening?
Okay, is it my turn now or yours? I don't know. Mine. Okay. This one, this is just like, I don't even know if it's a fear, but it's a struggle of mine. And I actually noticed so many people have this struggle, so many more than I thought. And that's rejection. And this point, I think I've said in a previous episode, but it's 30 odd % of kids born in South Africa have present fathers.
Crazy.
But
Is it like less than 30% or something dumb like that?
it could be, but another stat that I read this week is that, again, it was 30 something % of kids born last year have fathers on their birth certificates.
Yeah, so
which means 70% of all kids born in this country last year don't even have a father on their birth certificate.
That's wild.
And so for me, I don't know, that is just where my rejection issues started. And I think a lot of people, I've chatted to them more, I'm like, oh my word, I'm not an island.
No.
Like this, a lot of people are facing this. But I think we go into this world constantly fearing rejection. Like, we do seek acceptance and like
it's normal.
approval.
It's so normal.
And it's like, it can be very, very unhealthy. But I think, again, like, with social media and just with this, there is a need to fit in. You know, it's the human inside of us that we want to fit in.
Yeah.
And it can be really, really difficult to kind of...
when you're the outsider.
Yes, and it's like you fear rejection. Like, you live your life just trying so hard to just be seen and be, you know,
to be the
and
to
not
be like
to
the
be
best.
left. You know? I think it can be terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single person that's gone on The Bachelor goes on saying, I'm looking for love, but then they leave crying saying, I'm so scared to put my heart out on the line because what if I get my heart broken? I'm like, you came on a show.
Awful.
But it's a real problem.
Yeah, no, rejection sucks.
For real.
But anyway, next one. The climate crisis, freaking climate change and all that stuff.
What's that?
I don't know. Some people don't believe in us, unfortunately. Basically, like the climate crisis is, we kind of
the Earth is getting hotter.
Yeah, the Earth is getting hotter. Human activity has increased the carbon levels, and it's too much for the Earth, essentially. And it is directly linked to human activity. Like, there is literal proof of it. If you don't believe me, literally go and read a scholarly paper or a reputable website. Although some people don't believe in those either, so I think this also just ties into the whole thing. It feels like we can't change anything. Like, I feel like there are also so many like things going around, like, oh, we've gone too far, we can't stop like the climate crisis. And I think a lot of people kind of have the weight of like helping future generations, which is obviously, like, that's good. I feel like we should try our best to leave the Earth in a better place than the way we found it. That's like one of my personal beliefs. But at the same time, it's literally like affecting people now. Like, we've seen so many like disasters. Like, we've seen it in like New York City. For real,
like
it's ridiculous
everywhere at the moment.
Yeah, and like Venice is sinking, the Maldives are sinking, like they're all sinking. Everything is changing. Everything has changed, as Taylor has said. Wow. And it's really scary.
Don't forget, Ed Sheeran was on that track.
Yeah, Taylor's version. But yeah, it's really, really scary to think about, and you also like never really know what will happen. Like, that's just the way things are. Like, the Earth feels just incredibly volatile at the moment. And I think like what ties in with that is what can also happen as that goes on. So for example, like, I don't know how likely it is to happen, but as the icebergs melt, there are like literally illnesses that are frozen in the ice.
Wow.
Yeah, so like these things could come up, and like humans don't necessarily have antibodies against them. And even like increasing natural disasters or droughts or whatever can also just lead to new illnesses, pandemics. Like, they're like really linked.
The starving people are starving more.
Indeed. It's actually like a research field called planetary health. It's quite interesting if you want to look into it. Just like the link between climate change and illness and health and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we probably should be prepared for future pandemics, which is like really fun, obviously.
Yeah, it is terrifying, you know, because, and I think it's more terrifying for this generation because we still have a while to live, and it would directly affect our kids and their kids, you know, whereas I think no offense to older people, and if there are older people that care about this, like, cool.
Yeah.
But
you
I
should.
think the reason why it's stressing us out now so much is because the voices have actually become loud that we can hear it.
Yeah.
We have access to research we never had access
Exactly.
to before. And
like it's a fairly new like field in comparison to
things that have been studied forever.
Yeah.
You know, like we're having a mental health revolution, but psychology as a subject has been studied more in depth, and people know more about it than they are just finding out about what's happening on the earth.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's
really
quite
scary.
terrifying, and it can feel overwhelming because, again,
Like, what can you do?
What can you do? Like, okay, I'm not going to use a straw.
Like, okay, and then what? What about like all the fishing lines that are at the bottom of the ocean killing the fish?
It's
and like
terrifying.
Yeah.
Like not even just like the environment as a whole.
And the thing is, like, I've had, I don't know if a lot of people relate to this, but like since I was a child, I had like a very strong conviction about like pollution and like how bad it is. Like I've always like felt a thing about the earth. That's such a good description. Felt a thing about the earth. And like, I don't know, even as Christians, a lot of time Christians will literally like just dismiss climate change because it's like, well, whatever, Jesus is coming.
Yeah.
But like one of the first commandments the Lord ever gave humans was to look after the earth.
Yeah.
And so like and truly to be stewards.
Yeah.
And so it like truly bothers me that people don't care about the earth and they kind of think we can just do whatever the heck we want. And it's like, this is literally God's beautiful creation that we are just destroying.
Like, you're not going to knock down a house.
Yeah.
But you're perfectly fine with like actual things that you believe God created, literally, like you're okay with that. Just
So anyway, that's food for thought.
Then another one is, we desperately desire, as I said, to be accepted. I think we really fear being judged by our peers and by people our age and by our generation. I think we've gotten to a point where it's like there's this like weird divide between like boomers and older people and younger people, and like we've kind of accepted the fact that we're going to be arguing with our grandparents forever. Maybe we're going to be arguing with them forever, and like we might be judged for the way we do things. And I think we've kind of reached a point as a generation where we're okay
it's like whatever,
with that.
like I don't really care.
But the idea of not jumping on the train that everyone is jumping on, the idea that like we could possibly be judged by like someone who holds great influence, or literally just judged by the people in our everyday life, like that is terrifying.
No, I know.
Like that's a big struggle.
Literally. Do you know what, like one of the thing, it's not like, I'm not actually scared of it at all, but something I think about, like, imagine someone takes something that we say in our podcast and like takes offense to it and like puts it on their Instagram story and is like, they are so da-da-da-da-da, and I'm like,
terrifying.
And at the same time, it's also just this weird balance of like, you know, wanting to do your own thing, have your own opinions, following your own kind of thing, whereas like you really don't want to be judged. You don't want to be like a social outcast.
Yes. And it's, I mean, go listen, I think it was our 4th episode ever was on cancel culture.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying because we're told like, you have a voice, you finally have a voice, you have freedom of speech, you use it, but don't offend people.
Yeah.
But anything you say offends people.
Yeah, like I do believe that there are things that are objectively offensive.
100%.
But also, like, it can be so subjective. Like, people can literally take offense to anything.
Yeah.
And, like, it's, like, fine if you do, I guess. But then you have to realize that that's kind of your own thing.
Yeah.
Unless the person is saying it, like it all depends on intent, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. Or just, like, sometimes people are genuinely ignorant about what they say, which is, like, we have to have some kind of grace there. I was like, mercy? No, grace.
Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one. Do you have another one, or must I just continue?
I do have some more.
Okay, cool.
Which is just the economy. Yeah, terrifying.
How will I ever own property myself?
I don't know. You know, like Devon, I don't know if it's too much information,
We'll
but like
ask
you
him.
can like still plan your life, I feel. But like one of the things that he said to me is like, oh, like I want to own a house before I have children. I'm like, okay, cool, you'll be like 50.
You're like, I won't be able to push any babies out at that time.
I was like, you can marry someone else. And we are still dating, no engagement.
No,
by the way.
And Danielle is not pregnant.
No.
Because Devin only wants to have kids when he's 50.
Exactly.
I know, but it's like, for me, I'm like, how will I ever afford
I know.
to own property?
But even just getting a job, you can be the most qualified person and like
Your
not get a job.
Degrees, like, they are so important and they're so beneficial. But when it comes to the job market, it's
so difficult.
So difficult.
And you know, like, what is so frustrating, I think it's in like a lot of countries, but in South Africa, there is like genuinely just, I don't know, like a weird thing. There will be a need for, like, let's say social workers, and there is a need for social workers in this country, but they will literally say like, oh, like, sorry, you can't, like, we don't want you. And it's often to do with skin color, unfortunately. And like, I really like want to say I do understand.
But something like social work, like,
Yeah, like I truly understand
You
like
need social
DEE and like
workers.
affirmative action and a lot of those things. But like, isn't there a point where we say like, okay, we need
Yeah.
this person to work for us?
but a huge part of it is also like, I know that they were saying like, detectives, like, who are investigating murders, they have up to 200 cases per detective right now because they're just not enough.
It's rough.
But I also think that's like a finance thing. It's
Absolutely.
like, more
so
people need to
tough.
be employed, but there's no money to employ people, and like,
And oftentimes
it's terrifying.
like jobs will, like, they'll need certain people to do a job, obviously, but like they just don't pay enough, so people are like, I don't want to do that. And then there's just so much unemployment. But it really is incredibly scary. And just the idea that like we should start saving for retirement like now. That is terrifying to me. Like, I'm only going to retire when I'm what, like 60, 70
65.
something, unless I decide to retire really early. My
I'm
new thing is that
retiring at 30.
I'm retiring after I'm studying. Like, after I finish studying, thank you.
After I'm studying.
Exactly. You can tell how done I am.
Ay.
But yeah, and then also just like the whole global economy and like globalization. It's like there's like we're so interconnected, and there's so many ways to work and like so many jobs, but then there's also not. You know, that like there's like such
It's
a weird
bizarre.
kind of contradiction, and it's really scary. Yeah, I sometimes think I'm like, what the heck kind of job would I even get?
The right kind of job.
Yes, hopefully.
The heck kind of job that the Lord wants for you.
Exactly.
Doesn't make it any less terrifying though. Okay, then my one thing is gender-based violence.
Oh my word.
So for me, the fear of, as a woman, like moving into the kind of workforce, it's become a lot easier. There's still like a long way to go, but it's a lot easier now than it was 10 years ago even.
Yeah.
But like this like pandemic of gender-based violence, and epidemic specifically living in this country, is terrifying.
It's
and like
horrifying.
there's this part of me that's like, is it always going to be like this? Am I always going to have to like fear
for your life?
You know, like question every man's intention that I see on a street corner.
And it really is that bad. Like, for guys who don't believe that it is that bad, like, I promise you, I will literally be taking a nice walk and I'll see another guy coming from coming towards me, and I like instinctively go to the other side of the road, and I literally watch him the whole time, because I'm like, I'm not playing around here. And most girls are like that.
That's
I like the fact that
reality of it.
we should, like, my dad literally bought me a taser.
Yeah, I always have pepper spray
Like,
with
hello?
me.
I am so young. I don't want a taser.
Yeah. So that for me is really terrifying. And it's just like, even the idea of like me having goals, like if I ever had to have daughters, like I don't know how to deal with the stress of like letting them go out into this world where
it's horrifying.
Human trafficking looks like it does, because it's so much of the population is stuck in human trafficking and slavery, and it is terrifying.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah, being a woman is terrifying.
I think another fear, like that's something that is a possibility, is just, increasing wars. And so this could be like due to like resource scarcity, all of that, but also just the fact that like there are like so many nuclear weapons. And, you know, like, there are, like, there are agreements about, like, which countries can have nuclear weapons and which can't. But, like, people could make things and you wouldn't know.
Also, like, at what extent will, like, I don't know, there's kind of this thought of these agreements stand in place now with the understanding that leadership of countries have integrity. But I mean,
not all of them do.
That could change in a day,
Yeah,
you know?
it can. I mean, there's, like, many theories around, like, I don't know, like, these are things that we learned about this year. Like, most people believe that, you know, like, we kind of live in this state of, like, the global order is, like, anarchic by nature, because there is no, like, ruling force, but then, like, states will enter into agreements to kind of have, like, some level of, like, peace, I guess.
Yes.
And, like, those agreements and institutions can help with that.
Yes.
Very simplified. But, like, you get rogue states, you know, like this, like, for example, North Korea, we know has nuclear missiles. I mean, and if you have, like, trigger happy leaders of states,
this is what I'm saying.
like, they could literally just be like, no,
press
thank
the
you.
button.
Or like a certain American president, like, just threaten North Korea over Twitter.
Like,
Sorry.
terrifying.
Like, I actually saw someone say, I think it was on TikTok, that we should all be allowed to vote for the American president, because they just get involved with everything. And I strongly believe that, actually.
I love that.
It's very funny.
But then going on war and conflict.
Yeah.
Again, in this country specifically, when they were, like, rioting and looting.
So scary.
It was so scary because, I mean, I opened my phone the one morning and I felt like I was watching a movie.
Literally.
Because of the chaos and just seeing, like, buildings being destroyed. And there was that part of me that's like, this could move here.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 2-hour flight. Like, that's how close I am to this chaos.
Yes.
Like, this could be my home. This could be, you know, and that is terrifying.
Really scary.
And even, like, I was in KZN a couple of weekends ago and I saw some of the, like, buildings that had been destroyed and stuff. And it really hit me that, like,
it's close.
this
to
could
home.
be our life. Like, if things don't get sorted, like, this could be our life.
And the thing is, like, war is terrible. Wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And, like, there are so many states and countries who are having wars at the moment that we kind of just don't hear about.
Yeah.
And luckily there is not a world war going on at the moment, but, like, it could happen at any time. And, like, we are so, like, inexperienced with that kind of thing. Like, previous generations kind of grew up, you know, hearing a lot about wars. Like, you had World War I, World War II. Like, if you're living in America, you had the Vietnam War as well, which is a joke. But no offense, America. But oftentimes I'll see adults posting things like, oh, like, the kids these days have it so easy and, like, they don't have to go to war or whatever. And I'm like, you should be glad.
And we are
war
at
is horrible.
Not a physical war, but, like...
Yeah, but war is terrible. It is horrible. And, like, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So don't wish that upon us, please. Thank you.
No, please, no. How many more do you have? Because
I have, like, one more, I think.
I have one more.
Okay.
Yes, I have one fear, but I'm worried that it's only my fear and not the rest of the generation's fear. But
That's
I'm going to
okay.
mention it. The fear, divorce is a real fear for me. Like, I don't know. For me, it's like, if I get married, divorce isn't an option. But I've seen, like, the most amazing people get divorced because, like, you don't know how things are going to go, you know. And even if, like, you have this incredible conviction and you're like, this is the person that the Lord wants me to marry, like, you could be wrong. Things could change. So I think I'm pretty much the only person.
No, I think it's a very valid fear. And, like,
that, like, it terrifies me.
Divorce is very common nowadays.
That's
and,
the
like,
thing. So I feel like maybe a lot of people, it's like, if divorce needs to happen, it needs to happen. But for me, like, that terrifies me.
Like, I do not want it to happen.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anyone who has been involved with it will know, like, it's very destructive and horrible. Obviously, like, I do believe for some people, you
need to get out.
Yeah, you do need to get out. But it's not something I would ever want to go through.
No. And, like, yes, of course, listened to Adele's new album and watched her interview with Oprah. And she said, like, what was so hard about her recent divorce is she grew up in a broken home. And the idea of her child not living in a 2-parent household, that was like her one goal in life. She's like, my kids are not going to go through what I had to go through. And now she's in that position. And I mean, I think she just feels like incredibly guilty about it. But like,
what can you do?
There is that fear.
What can you do? And like, the thing is, you can also have like, you can have that conviction of like, I'd never want to get divorced, but your partner doesn't necessarily have that either. So like, if they decide I'm not happy, like I want out, what can you do? You can go for
rejection.
You can go through as much like marital counseling as you want, but if they've decided no, then it is what it is.
Yes. My last one is obviously the most Christian of all, and that is just that like people don't open themselves up to the love of God. Because again, like as I just said 5 seconds ago, like I literally wouldn't be here if it were not for Jesus and my relationship with the Lord. And just the idea that like people, especially like a fear of mine, especially being in ministries, that like I will do something that will push someone away from the Lord. Or
that is a really scary thought.
Or just like their hearts will be so hardened to... Yeah, so a huge fear of mine is just that people will never be open to Jesus, but like especially because of something that a church has done, or even like just to think that I could do something that will push someone away from the Lord is the most terrifying thing. So yeah, I'm just like, I just want people to know the love of the Lord and to accept what Jesus has done for them.
That is fair.
And to realize that we are all screwed up, but praise the Lord for being the Lord.
Amen. But yeah, those are our fears. But I do want to say, like, I don't necessarily believe that we're worse off than humankind has ever been. Like, we've seen incredibly hard times throughout the world, like, you know, transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, the Holocaust.
Racism is still a huge thing, guys. I fear that it'll always be that way.
Indeed, people are sucky. But anyway, I do hold hope. I do believe that we can get through things, that we can make the world a better place if we put our minds to it, if we make those choices. And I do believe everything will be okay eventually.
Everything will be okay.
Yeah, that's the episode, I think.
That is the episode. I was like, I have nothing tweetable to say.
Nothing tweetable.
No.
How about tweet that Taylor Swift is cool?
And Zara locked herself outside the house for the 100th time today.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is it.
It's a real problem. Anyways, guys, I hope that you join us in the next episode, on the next episode. And you better be subscribing or
You'd better
liking
be.
or
I'll go cry myself to sleep.
all the things.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.